Jacksonville Jaguars fans, welcome in to Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks so much for being here. Thursday, November 27th. Happy Thanksgiving. Recording here on Thanksgiving morning. It's a little gloomy outside, but feels a little bit more like Thanksgiving with temperatures not in the 80s today. I think the high is 65 in Jacksonville, Florida, which I'll take that all day, every day. Absolutely love it. So Jaguars, they're playing the Titans this weekend. A divisional game. The Jaguars' first game against the Titans this year. They play them this weekend, and then they play them in Jacksonville the final week of the season. We're going to preview this game. Normally, I have pretty extensive notes, but doing it a little bit differently this week, just having a little fun talking about this football game, kind of off the cuff a little bit. So, Jaguars, they are 6.5-point favorites against the Titans in this game, and in Tennessee on the road. 6.5-point favorite. That's a pretty big line. It absolutely is. Part of the reasoning for that is the Jaguars are 7-4. They've won 3 of their last 4 games. They've scored 30 points per game since the bye week. Regardless of how they're getting wins, overtime, blowouts, whatever it may be, they've been winning football games as of late. And for most of the season, they've been pretty successful in the win column. You look at the Titans, on the other hand, they only have 1 win this year. They have been a little bit more competitive in games as of late, even playing against some decent opponents. The Seahawks score last week was a little bit of a lie when you just look at the final score. The game wasn't as close as the score indicated, but the Titans, they've only won 1 game, and they've fired their coach. They've got a rookie quarterback. They've got a lot of young pieces, a roster that's just not super competitive right now overall. So the Jags, is this a trap game for them? You might feel that way. I don't think that anytime the Jaguars play the Titans, even with a new regime, right? Like, Liam Cohen and James Gladstone are new. Obviously, Tony Boselli has been around the Jaguars and Titans rivalry, but this is a rivalry that we have seen as recently as 2023, one team with playoff aspirations losing to the other team that has no business beating them, really. We've seen that happen in this rivalry, and you see that happen in rivalries every single year. The Jaguars have got to make sure that they are bringing their full effort, full focus to this football game. Otherwise, Tennessee's going to hang around, and you never know what might happen in a close game. Even though the Jaguars have been pretty good overall in close games. You see teams all the time accidentally just let one slip away. And the Jaguars can ill afford to let one slip away this week against the Tennessee Titans because they are in a heated division race with the Indianapolis Colts, and the Texans are right behind as well. Look, you look at the standings, the Jags need this one. If they want to win the AFC South, and that might not be every fan's goal right now. Like some fans might just be happy to make the playoffs, but the Jaguars' internal goal is to win the AFC South. The Colts are 8-3, the Jags are 7-4. To make sure that at the very least their Week 14 matchup with the Colts in Jacksonville is for the division lead. The Jaguars need to win this game. Now, if the Jaguars lose this game and the Colts lose to the Texans, you'll still have that opportunity. But the Jaguars handle business, right? If they win this game against the Titans, they get to 8-4. The Colts, if they lose to the Texans, they'll be 8-4, and then the Jaguars would actually have an opportunity to go a game up on the Colts in the division, next week in Jacksonville. And Jacksonville's not a place where the Colts play very well. So you talk about this game, though, actually, like, the players on the Titans and what they've been doing. Cam Ward is coming off a good outing overall, and he's got one player in particular who's really come on strong, as much as a special teamer as a receiver. But Chimera DK out of Florida, 4th-round pick, I was a big fan of him coming out. He's got length and speed, and his tape was pretty solid at Florida. His Senior Bowl performance was impressive. can run like the wind. He's been a great punt returner. He's been a decent receiver, and he had a pretty good game last week overall. Scored a touchdown as a receiver. That's somebody who you obviously have to be aware of. And look, Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, they have the ability to get the job done as running backs, but you don't have a very good offensive line right now, and you don't have a very good running game. The Jaguars, they have a great run defense. So I think you can go into the game feeling confident the Jaguars can slow down the Titans on early downs in the run game, and then the pass game. The Titans have allowed the most sacks in football, and you look at the Jaguars the last 3 weeks, they've been getting a ton of pressure on the quarterback. So again, that's a matchup that seems to favor the Jaguars on paper. And then you look at the receivers. Yes, DK can play a little bit. You've got guys that are experienced, but it's not a lot to write home about. I do think Gunnar Helm is a talented rookie, and he caught a lot of passes last week. Over the last couple games, he had 6 catches against Seattle. He had 4 catches against Houston. So they're getting him involved a lot. The rookie out of Texas, he's not the same level of athlete that the Jaguars have struggled with a lot of these tight ends, but he's still a tight end that the Jaguars have to be aware of for sure, just because they've been so poor against tight ends. And you've also got Chigo Okonkwo. So the Titans do have 2 tight ends they can get out there that can potentially do some damage against them. And Okonkwo he's gotten almost 400 yards this year. So that's another guy. The Jaguars have seen firsthand, not this regime, but the Jaguars have seen firsthand how effective he can be as a receiver. That's still a big weakness. I thought overall against Trey McBride, they did a pretty good job not allowing him to take over the game. But he still had, 79 yards on 9 catches. He just wasn't as explosive as you might expect. He didn't find the end zone. So as long as the Jaguars don't let these tight ends absolutely ruin the game for them, they'll be fine on the defensive side of the ball. And again, Cam Ward, yes, he can run around. He can make plays. It's just not an environment in which you're going to see a lot of success the back end of the year, in my opinion. And then you look at the Jaguars offense versus the Titans defense. Titans are allowing the most, well, not the most, but they're allowing 27.5 points per game. They're top 5 in terms of points allowed. They do have Jeffrey Simmons, who you have to be aware of without question. But outside of Jeffrey Simmons right now, there's not a whole lot to get super worried about from a defensive standpoint. They don't rush the passer all that well. They don't stop the run, and that's a huge, huge point of emphasis for the Jaguars this week, in my opinion, running the football. They need to be in over the last 6 weeks of the season. I think running the football is going to be one of the keys for the Jaguars, and it has been all year, but you really want to enter the postseason being able to run the football. And the Jaguars have been one of the better teams on the ground this year. They're averaging about 130 yards a game on the ground. The Titans are giving up over 130 yards a game on the ground. And so that's got to be a key for the Jaguars, keeping the Titans off the field, keeping your defense fresh, and running the football, controlling the clock, and getting out of there with a big dub against a team that you should beat. But again, I just don't know where you're really terrified of what the Titans are bringing to the table on the defensive side of the ball, outside of Jeffrey Simmons, who can wreck the game. If you make mistakes yourself, or allow him to make you make mistakes, he can beat you up. I mean, he's one of the best interior defenders in the league. Point blank, period, end of story. A guy who was he was a name at the trade deadline. A lot of folks were thinking about potentially could X team add Jeffrey Simmons, but he's terrorized the Jaguars before. I think the Jaguars have the coaching offensively with Liam Cohen, the run scheme, and the talent on the interior probably to deal with Jeffrey Simmons. One thing to note is the injury report right now, and that can have an impact on this game. I don't think that even if the Jaguars had a bunch of guys missing, like, they had a lot last week that they were missing, even if that's the case again this week, it shouldn't matter as much. Now, Trayvon Walker and Danny Strigo both have knee injuries, not like long term, but Walker didn't participate in practice last week, and he didn't participate in practice yesterday on Wednesday. So that's problematic, especially if Danny Strigo can't play. So if neither of those guys can play, obviously you're going to see a lot of Josh Hines-Allen. You'll probably see some more creative like sim pressures where you get Devin Lloyd getting in there, Dennis Gardeck, but you'll see more BJ Green, more Smoot, Ogba potentially, although he's been a healthy scratch before. That's going to be interesting to watch and see. And hopefully it doesn't matter as much because you're doing a good job on rundowns. And then Josh Hines-Allen, you're just moving him around and hunting matchups. That's what you would like to see. Brian Thomas Jr. was limited in practice with an ankle. He hasn't played in a couple weeks. Will he be able to return? That's a big question mark overall. Eric Murray, his 21-day practice window was opened. Jaguar starting safety. They've been doing well without him. So either way, you don't want to rush him back. Antonio Johnson was limited. He's been doing a good job at safety, but so has Dewey had a good last couple weeks. Rayon Lane is starting to come on, so you feel okay at safety in this game. You're not playing against the most high-powered passing offense. Chuma Edoga didn't participate in practice. He's one of your top backups on the offensive line. You obviously don't want to see him in the game either way, but Patrick McCary, concussion protocol, did not practice yesterday either. So those are kind of the big ones right now. And good on the good news front, Jordan Lewis was a full participant. He hasn't played in a while. Hunter Long was also a full participant. So you could have your top two tight ends back. Brenton Strange returned last week. Hunter Long potentially returning this week. That would definitely be a big boon for the Jaguars offense. And you look at what the Titans have going on from a injury standpoint. Lloyd Cushenberry, their starting center, did not participate in practice with a foot injury on Wednesday. Outside of that, you had a lot of DNPs, but it was just resting players. Tony Pollard, Jeffrey Simmons, Jihad Ward, blast from the past there, and Kevin Zeitler. But those guys aren't injured. They were just kind of on maintenance. So Jags, they should not have any problem in this one if they come correct. Point blank. But it's Jags Titans, and we've seen it way too often. You can't count your chickens before they hatch, right? Can't put the cart before the horse, whatever you want to call it. Jags got to take care of business in Tennessee, and they should this weekend against the Tennessee Titans. Let me know how you're feeling about this one. Hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving. I am so thankful for all of y'all that tune in to this show and make it possible. So bottom of my heart, thank you so much, and hope y'all have a really happy Thanksgiving with family, friends. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe, and y'all have a good one.